Peace, everybody. Welcome to the Space of Letters TV channel. Here, I'm your guy Rashone, aka Looker. Welcome to all you guys. Welcome back to my subscribers, and welcome to any new subscribers over the past week. I thank you all. And if you just breezing by the page and just so happen to stumble across the page and you stop and stay for a while, if you like the content here that I speak about, or you go through the archives and see all the different topics I've touched on, then feel free to subscribe and tell a friend and tell a friend. You know, it's good conversation, good topics I touch on here. But as of lately, going on 3 months now, I've been talking about the Guilford County school system, and you know, in my you know, how I'm unsatisfied I've been, along with many other parents in Guilford County, North Carolina here, with Sharon Contreras and her board members. And I want to touch on something. They had the Guilford County school system, Sharon Contreras, on September the 3rd. They sat down and had a briefing, and they were talking about how the students, you know, fell in grades and this and that. But I'm like, and the test scores and how they were failing. I'm like, what is she talking about? The federal government, the U.S. Department of Education, waived the tests and the test scores and everything. They waived all those tests, the assessment tests. They you know, they didn't want to put that stress on the students, you know, due to the COVID. You know, they felt the students are coming back and everything. They want the students to move forward. They don't want to look back. You can't change those things. We have to move forward. You have too many students in these districts. We got to continue to move forward and figure out how to do it. You know, that's your job, to figure out how to do it, how to do it, and move forward. So since they say, Contreras, you be getting awards for being innovative and all of this stuff, then now it's time to put that to use. Okay? Them awards you were winning, now it's time to put that to use, even though we know it's all bull crap. But now it's time to put it to use, don't you think? Come out with some plans. What you gonna spend that money on that you got? All that money you've been sitting on, 300 million was the 300 million bond was the latest, okay? And let's talk about you were receiving per pupil. The COVID aid per pupil was the highest. Guilford County was the highest out of Mecklenburg, Wake County, and Forsyth County. Wake County received $4,200 per student. You know, Forsyth County, Winston-Salem received $4,168. Cumberland County, $4,109. Mecklenburg, $3,257. Wake County, $2,123 per student. That's what they received. Now you had the rural areas like Weldon, which is going back north of the state. Weldon received $11,000 per pupil. The more rural counties receive more. Then you had Warren County, which received $18,000 per pupil. But they talk about what they done with that money that they got. You had Warren County, the superintendent, he talked about how he got new computers and software, and he gave more money because they had summer programs, so he was able to pay the teachers more money and everything of that nature. Weldon, they done the same thing. They upgraded in their schools. They made touchless faucets. They were dropping off meals to students' doors, going to their homes, knocking on doors, dropping off lunches. You know, hot lunches. They upgraded their technology as well. So they were putting forth with that money, okay? And they're still waiting on more funds to do more. We have yet to hear in this county. I don't know what Mecklenburg and Wake County and Forsyth County we haven't heard, but I'm in Guilford County along with the other parents. We want to know what you were doing with that money. That's just that money. What are you going to do with 300 million bond? What are you going to do with the 254 million you got before the 300 million bond got approved? What are you doing with the $2.1 million that you got from the 3 schools that was damaged in a tornado? Peeler, Hampton, and Irving Montessori. What have you done with that money? Tell us what you're doing with the money. That's public. That should be public. That's supposed to be public. Public school system, you're supposed to make it public what you're doing with the monies. Nobody knows what you're doing with the monies, and you talking about you want to harp on the students being the test scores being low, but we got data here that you had supplied that's supplied on the Guilford County Schools website, where you talked about the students from 2018 to 2019, the scores rose. They came up and they came up. They were doing better. They were advancing. But then this year you want to come with the restart schools because you claim that the students were failing in the test course. But once again, the U.S. Department of Education waived those assessment tests. They weren't caring about those test scores. They didn't care that, what the students' performance. They didn't care about that because they knew the stress not only the country was under as a whole, but the students as well as having to learn from home, and the transition that the students had to go through. Okay? So if the federal government was giving relief for food and home and food assistance and housing, then why wouldn't they help the students? We heard the funding that in every bill, education was in the package. What they were going to do for education was in the package because they know they had to take care of the situation with the students. They knew the stress that the education system was under, and they knew that, they just had to take care of that. And on top of that, you have the No Child Left Behind Act that was put in place by George W. Bush in 2001. The No Child Left Behind Act also talked about every student also had to take, in public school, every student had to take the assessment test. And in order for school districts to receive government funding. So the No Child Left Behind law also had, stipulations. The No Child Left Behind law. You can't leave a child behind. And on top of that, every child in your school district got to take an assessment test, whether they perform well or not, in order for you to receive funding. Now, I believe the lower the test scores, the more funding they get. Okay? So you knew. So you're pushing this agenda, Contreras. And what I'm telling you about the No Child Left Behind, you could just Google it. You could just Wikipedia the No Child Left Behind Act, and what I'm saying, you will see what I'm saying. Okay? So I see why you're pushing this agenda, Contreras, about the students being low performing and all of this, when it's all lies. They're not low performing. You're saying these things so you can receive more government funding. You're saying that the students were performing low, and now you got restart schools. But on the Guilford County Schools website, you spoke about. Let me get to it. On the Guilford County School website, you spoke about, and the title reads, GCS seeing EOG proficiency growth at all elementary and middle school levels. That's the title. I'm going to read it to you guys from the Guilford County School website. Okay? For the first time in nearly a decade, Guilford County Schools elementary and middle school students scored higher on state tests in every subject and at every grade level in 2019. According to the results released today by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, the numbers are proof that the strategic investments our Board of Education has made in curriculum development, instructional material, and supplies, and powerful professional development for our educators are paying dividends in the classroom for all students, said Contreras. Let's go on. Grade level proficiency increased across the district in English, in English, language arts, reading, and grades 3 through 8 from 52.2% in 2018 to 55.5% in 2019. The large gains occurred in 4th and 6th grades. The increases were posted by all major racial, ethnic student demographic groups, with white students posting a 3.4% point gain, black students posting a 3.5% gain, Hispanic students posting a 4.3% gain, and Asian students posting a 5.7% gain. All right, I'm going to stop right there. You can go to the Guilford County School website and you can continue to read that and how the students from 2018 and 2019 they were picking those grades up. They were picking those scores up. But she comes with this restart schools and says that the students were performing low before the COVID. That's what they were saying. That's why the restart schools happened, right? For this school year here, for the 2021 school year here. But you seeing what I just read off of the Guilford County School website, okay? With Contreras co-signing it on the website, okay? But she sits there on September the 3rd and talk about how the students are low performing, the test scores were low. Once again, the U.S. Department of Education waived and weren't holding the children accountable, the students accountable for those test scores, for any test scores in 2020 due to the COVID. So why are you sitting there, Contreras, keep kicking the backs end of these students and trying to make it like the students are all, and then that's really kicking the back end of these educators, okay? Probably part of the reason why some of the educators probably left, part of the reason is why they left Guilford County, because they knew better, and they knew the work that they put in the year previous, to COVID. And then you come and you try to talk about how they're performing low and all of this. Well, due to COVID, a lot of things happen. Even you guys even you were dropping the ball all throughout it, Contreras. So the students had a lot of everybody, the teachers and everything. I'm not counting you because you weren't doing anything. You weren't leading. The students and the teachers had a lot to deal with, man. That was a heavy transition, for the students. And you had students that didn't even have access to Wi-Fi. They didn't have it. They didn't have computers, nothing. Some people didn't even get a chance to get those computers, the laptops y'all were giving out for the students at the time. And even if they could get them, if they didn't have access to Wi-Fi, what would it matter to them? Okay? And also let's remember through 2020 there were students that were unaccounted for. Remember, there were students y'all couldn't even account for. Y'all didn't even know, where they were. Okay. Yeah, I seen the school buses in certain areas for the children to have Wi-Fi access and everything like that. And in different areas that children could have went. But there was so much happening during COVID. You had a whole lot going on, a lot of distress going on with a lot of families as well too. So with parents losing jobs, scrambling, trying to get assistance for whatever for their household, you might have seen a lot of that when school was out. Probably a lot of education, students just got missing because they had to follow their parents, or whatever was going on, and obviously I'm not saying it was a good thing, but obviously education wasn't on the mind. And I'm not saying that that's right. It was a tough time. It's still a tough time. It's not over. But then you talked about the graduation rate being higher than it's been. Last year, the graduation rate was higher than it's been, 91.4% in Guilford County. Well, I guess so. If there's no child left behind, you're going to have that. And the government said that they were waiving assessments tests They were not holding that against the students due to the COVID. They did not want to have that extra stress added to the students. Okay, hence they were giving out funding to help the school districts around the country. So they weren't. So that's why you're trying to take credit for something that you can't take credit for that. You know what I mean? You had to, those students had to go on advance because if it wasn't for the No Child Left Behind, even though I don't agree with that, with the No Child Left Behind Act, but if it wasn't for the No Child Left Behind Act, the school system, starting back this year, you would have really been in a frenzy because it would be more students returning back because they did not pass. You know, so I don't agree with the No Child Left Behind really because it just keeps pushing the student along. And then ultimately what happens is when they get out into the real world, they're really just could be lost. And if they going further to try to further their education, the truth will catch up to them. Because obviously if they weren't performing too well, the numbers are going to show. Even no matter how much you push them along, the numbers are going to still show where they were performing at. And they will only be able to go to a 2-year college. And then even then, when you get to the 2-year college, you're going to be taking those basic classes to get you caught up with the masses. You know what I mean? So I don't agree with that No Child Left Behind. I don't agree with it. I also felt, even during this situation with the COVID, I feel that parents, we had to step up even more because the education system was in distress. And it wasn't nothing, the remote learning was the only option. And I feel like as parents, you're supposed to step up at that point and make sure that your child is staying on track, or that you're making sure that your child is at least performing on their grade level at the minimum, and that they're performing at their grade level, at the minimum. That was a time. At that point, the parents were supposed to step up and tap in with your child and focusing in on them, because if nobody was staying on top of them, it was just another day out of school. As we seen, the remote learning was really a joke. I'm gonna just be honest with you. It was really a joke. It was really a joke. And I'm gonna just leave that right there, and everybody know that it was really a joke. You know what I'm saying? As much as our children, much as many of our children like to play on the internet and everything, when it comes to that remote learning, when it came to that right there, that showed, and you noticed, and we know that children, most kids don't like going to school anyway, right? So when it comes to that remote learning, those same children is like, they not tapped in. It's better for children. They have to be hands on. They have to be in person. And on that computer was like a joke. And I'm gonna just leave that there. But I was trying to figure out doing this September the 3rd meeting or whatever Guilford County Schools or Sharon Contreras had. I was trying to understand why are we at this time, why are we comparing the black and white kids and other racial and ethnic groups? Why are we comparing right now? If you saying that the children have failed, we don't need to compare the black against the white. We don't need to compare black against the white and white against Hispanic, Hispanic against the Asian. We don't need to do all of that. You know what I'm saying? If it was failing, but they weren't failing, okay? Everybody around the country, 2020 was shot. The education system was shot. Every educational system was scrambling. Okay, everybody with this remote learning. You did it because the government said you had to do it. You knew that it was necessary to attempt something, but it wasn't taken seriously. Okay. But you sit here and you try to, in a sense, hold 2020 against the children when there was no way you can hold that against them. And also, you're receiving funding in the name of the children. Also, a lot of funding, what I've noticed, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna kind of wrap this up right here, because I just wanted to shine some light on just how much this lady lies. But a lot of the funding, if 2020 haven't showed you, a lot of the funding that was given to the school systems, it was in the name of the black students, black children. And I'm going to tell you why, and then you can tap in and you'll understand. You've been hearing over and over and over again when it came to the education system. Even when you read anything at this point about the education system and funding with COVID pandemic relief for the education system, for the public school system, K through 12, they always talking about the black students, the urban community. When they want to talk about poverty and hunger, they really always tapping in and talking about the black community, the impoverished areas, in the urban community. They always throw that in there. So a lot of funding was given down the pipeline in the name of black students, but then you have people like Sharon Contreras, she's getting this money in the name of the black students, but you're not doing nothing for none of the students. I'm confused. But I've taken real notice to that in this last year, as everything you hear in the media, when you're reading things about the education system, even when you listen to Sharon Contreras talk, they're always talking about the black urban community. When they say, or if they use just the urban community, you know they talking about the black people, urban areas. They always talk about that because they get the funding for the urban communities, because they always attach to the urban communities poverty. They attach it to the urban communities like if rural communities don't have poverty. But they attach it more. I don't know if it's more attractive to just say the urban communities. So if they don't say the black, if they don't use the black community, or if they don't use blacks in the urban community, they'll just say the urban communities. We as black people know what that is. Okay? So the education system around the country has been receiving money for years, since for years, in the name of the urban community. And what have they been doing? They're coming up short every time when it was textbooks coming up short, old outdated textbooks. The schools were deteriorating. So now we move forward and we are in the technology age. Outdated software, computers, the schools. You seeing with Guilford County, the HVAC system's failing. They have up to 1,000 work orders in these schools. Why? When you're receiving all of this money, I just want to know. There was a comment made on one of my videos, and I want to go with it too. Yeah, I want to see what the maintenance man driving. I noticed Sharon Contreras, every time she's coming on a camera, every time you see her in a photo op, she got a new pair of shades on. She's dressed up nice. She's looking nice and everything. But what about these schools? Nobody gives a flying fuck about what you're wearing, Sharon Contreras. What about these schools? Where's that money? Why are you not going to the county and getting that money that's sitting there? Why are you not sending for work to be done? Why hasn't the county received receipts for work done so they can pay somebody? Why isn't that we can hear what other counties are doing with that money that they received, the pandemic relief or COVID relief, whatever you want to call it, the funding for the students? Why we can hear what other superintendents around the country is doing with the money, and why haven't we heard what you're doing with the money here in Guilford County? We haven't heard one thing. But what we have heard was the second week of school, you got school shootings. Yeah, well, fights. We're hearing about HVAC systems failing. We're hearing all of these things, but what are you folks doing with this money y'all receiving? Why? Where is the safety for these children? Why isn't these people doing what they're supposed to do for these children? That's your job, to service this education system, this K through 12 public school system. Getting all this money, and I'm confused. But you're getting money in the name of the black children, and this ain't to like shun any other race or anything. This is not. I'm just making a point here. It's fact. If you look back and read everything up until this point, whenever they say urban community, funding for the urban community, the impoverished areas, this, that, and the third, the black, sometimes they'll attach the black to it, and then sometimes you got certain people, whoever's reporting the information or whatever, they might just say the urban communities. They're trying to be more, I don't know, but when they don't want to attach the black people to the urban community, but we know what you mean when you say the urban inner cities, the poverty in the inner cities. You know what I mean? So you get more funding for that. We're sending more funding because those more poverty-driven areas like the urban communities and the inner city, the black communities. So you're getting all of this. You're getting all of the funding. And the funding is handed down in the name of that, as if there's no other community or no other race that suffers. But you're getting this funding in the name of the black children and the black community. When it comes to education in these public school systems, you're doing nothing. We got 3 schools in Guilford County still sitting dormant, just deteriorating by the day, by the week, by the month. Irwin Montessori, Peeler Elementary, Hampton, those schools were hit in a tornado in 2018, and you have yet, and they've received, and Guilford County Schools has received the money, $10.1 million. Now, granted, they could have received more money for those schools, but they were so outdated with the insurance adjuster said, that's what all they were able to give them. And they got that money, and where is it? You haven't done nothing with those 3 schools with that money, not even for one of those schools. Where is the money? Where is the money? Where did you put it towards? Who's really profiting off of that money? And we talk about the failing HVAC systems again, and you talk about, oh, they're on back order. HVAC systems on back order. I bet they would be on back order if all of a sudden now, when it makes the news that the students were sent home in Guilford County from 3 schools because of the failing HVAC systems, and then all of a sudden y'all making all these phone calls. I guess it would probably be back orders, huh? But I mean, I kind of find it hard to believe. This country is a big country. There's a lot of schools here, you know. And I don't want to believe that, they're on back order for no. You guys are just. But in the same breath, they said that 29 schools in 2020 HVAC systems were fixed. But you also say that it's hard to get the parts for the HVAC systems because they're on back order. But you still got people coming in. You still got these, you still got crews coming in changing filters on failing HVACs. Okay? You still got them coming in changing filters on failing HVAC systems. Makes no sense to me. Makes no freaking sense to me. But yeah, man, I just wanted to tap in because I had to talk about how these people like Sharon Contreras consistently sits and talks about things that makes not a lick of sense, and stumbling over herself. On the Guilford County Schools website, it clearly states, and she co-signed how the students' test scores have come up between the 2018-2019 school year, that how they performed and their scores were rising. But then you have restart schools and say because the restart schools for the 2021 school year is because the students were failing in 2019 before the COVID. And then you talk about, oh, the test scores were low last year. We got to figure out. But you forgot what was going on last year? I guess so, because you went home during COVID anyway and sat on your hands and you ain't pay attention to nothing that was going on anyway. That's why you're so behind and y'all was scrambling. And then every time when school started back, nobody heard nothing. You know, you trying to figure out, is we really going to start back or what? Like, what's going on? Do they have what they need? They said there's a teacher shortage. Do we have what we need? Come on, man. They didn't want to play the game and act like you lost. Like, well, we just have a teacher shortage. No, teachers left. They left Guilford County. Okay, stop playing games. You just didn't lose teachers. They walked away. They got tired of They weren't trying to play with you guys anymore. You ain't had your thing in order. They didn't want to deal with you, and you wasn't talking no more money. You wasn't trying to pay out no more money until the start of this school year. Till about July, we started hearing, oh, we're going to give teachers more money. Meanwhile, you have been getting money for the government just like every other school district since last year, since the start of the pandemic. But you weren't trying to put the funds where they needed to go. But I guarantee you and your constituents, you lined your pockets, Contreras. I guarantee you probably gave yourself a nice little bonus. I guarantee that. Yeah, I guarantee that. And anybody watching that they ain't agreeing with how you run the school system, I guarantee they believe it too. You lined your pockets, you and your constituents. But that's my time, folks. I just had to stomp in real quick and talk about that thing there, and just talk about how we had these people just trying to play our face, and it's really time for Sharon Contreras to be gone, man. I mean, you know, I can't understand how they extended her contract to 2025. But you know what's funny? You know how I read the thing and they talked about they giving the school districts until 2025. They giving them like 3 years to spend that money, the funding. They got 3 years to spend that money. But it's funny, Contreras will be gone in 2025. The government was giving up until 2025 to spend that money. Contreras will be gone in 2025, ladies and gentlemen, and we won't see nothing done because we ain't seen it yet. All the issues that need to be done, it will take years for them to get done. If they would have started fixing those HVAC systems years ago, at least 10 years ago, even like before she even came here, if they would have started on them and she would have picked up and stayed on top of it when she came to Guilford County, they could have been ahead of the game. Even if she would have started on it when they brought them across her desk when she first came, and she cared about the students so much, she'll be still ahead of the curve. And then nobody knew the pandemic was coming, but the pandemic came, so you have more funding. Then you could have really put things in perspective and put it into play and say, hey, we really got a time frame going on when we can get things done. Have a whole plan. You see, we talk about politics and we talk about what president's going to do, but we got politics going on and people playing games right in our own backyards. You see, we have people running for office, the highest office, which is the president. Whether they lie or not, they present to us some sort of a plan. We have this person sitting as a school superintendent that has not yet once showed a plan of how she's going to attack anything. But that's what happens when she comes. She's a part of that broad system, the broad academy. So if you're new to if you just stopping in and tapping into the page, then you have to go back and understand what I'm talking about when I speak about the broad academy. and Sharon Contreras and the Broad Academy's mission. Their only mission, they like to get into the urban communities for their own reasons. Be like I said just a little while ago. See, because they know the urban community, you get money. There's a lot of funding that comes down the pipeline in the black communities dealing with the education system. There's a lot of funding that comes through the pipeline for various things. It just never gets handled. They kick the can down the road, and everybody, they line their pockets with that funding. And I believe she's lining her pockets, Sharon Contreras, and her constituents. Because it's mighty funny how a board who appointed her, she runs them. Never heard an employee running the employer. Never heard of that before. None of us never heard of that before. If you're not an entrepreneur, even if you are an entrepreneur and you hire somebody and then they're trying to run your business, what are you going to do? You're going to fire them. So if you work for something, and if you work for an employer and you come in and you don't follow their code of ethics and follow their laws and how things are to be ran, what will happen to you? They will fire you. So I'm trying to understand when we're dealing with a sensitive issue as far as education and these children. And then not only that, due COVID, you got all of this funding. If you ask me the math, my math, $554 million. If you ask me how much money she got, because the $300 million bond you just got a few months ago before school start, before that, I tallied up $254 million, including that $10.1 million. I had that included in there. If you go back to my previous videos, you'll see when I'm talking about the GCS, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So, I'm confused. But, hey, that's my time, folks. I'm going to continue to talk. I'm going to continue to stay on their backs. I'm going to continue to keep talking until everybody understands, until everybody understands what they're looking at, because there's a lot of bootlickers under Contreras and behind Contreras, and everybody's in it for their own gain, trying to position themselves for whatever it is, and they're blinded, and they really don't know what they're looking at. They really don't even know who they're dealing with. All they got to do is look back at what Syracuse did and why they got rid of Sharon Contreras, and then you'll understand the same thing they got rid of her for is the same behavior and things that she's doing here. And she had some schools that started to fail and performing poorly. And when a new board came in, she knew that they were going to get rid of her. And what she did, she had a little time left on her contract, and she bailed on them and came and winded up here in Guilford County. They brought her on. Guilford County brought her on with the term, with the idea, oh, she's the first Afro-Latino, African Latino. That's what that means. She's the first Afro-Latino. That to be a great thing, you know. But she didn't have no real. Her track record was poor from Syracuse. We don't know what she did before Syracuse because there's nothing else to talk about. But Syracuse, she performed poorly there. They weren't going to extend her contract there. She knew it, so she got up out of there. But what happened? She come here and they giving her all the praise. But the top blew off the kettle in the beginning of this 2021 school year, huh? Them HVAC systems, and then the truth comes out about how many work orders. There's 500 work orders in HVAC systems, and there's 1,000 work orders in total around the school system. Why haven't they got done? Because I'm for sure this work needed to be done before COVID. Before 2020, that work needed to have been done. Why wasn't it done? So the truth came out about that. Yeah. But it's funny how, you'll see the people still stand behind it. Just like in any political game, you see people standing behind people, knowing that these people are not doing the job, and they support them because it's for their own gain. So the people that's behind Contreras, it's for their own gain. They continue to support her. They're not speaking out. They continue to support her because it's for their own gain. They're positioning themselves. They're not caring about these children, which they're supposed to be. That's their job, to care about these children and making sure these children get the education, and they don't. They don't care. But yeah, we're gonna see. She claimed by 20. She claimed in three. She claimed they're gonna be spending money on rebuilding new schools. And I'm saying to myself, why are you gonna try to rebuild new schools and won't you just fix the ones you got? Let's start there. Let's start with that. Let's take care of what we got in front of us first, buddy. One thing at a time. Let's rebuild what we got and not trying to build something else. Rebuild what the foundations you got right now. Build on that before we move forward. You don't need to build no new schools, Contreras, okay? Y'all don't need to think about rebuilding no new schools, Guilford County. You already shorted the teachers. You need to make sure you can attract some teachers to come back to this place before you start trying to build more buildings that's just going to sit there because you ain't got no educators. Think about that. I'm your guy, Rashone. This is Space Invaders TV. I thank you all. Make sure y'all tell a friend and tell a friend. Y'all have a good night. I'm gone.